Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Hot Toys quarter scale Iron Man figure unboxing and review. Now today we are taking a look at the reissue of the Mark 42 from Iron Man 3. I know, not everyone's favourite movie and not everyone's favourite suit, but I'm sorry to tell you, it's definitely one of mine. The suit, not the movie. Now, I got my copy from toyswonderland.com. Link for that is in the description below. They do have installment plans and a points-based reward system. While you're down there, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button so you're notified as soon as a brand new review goes live on the channel. As for the box art, Hot Toys have gone all out here. This looks absolutely stunning. The entire thing is covered in this metallic finish. You've got a bunch of tech circuitry on the surface, a side profile image of the Mark 42's helmet, and yes, it's a 3D raised piece, and all of the line work is embossed. We also have a quarter scale badge that's also a 3D separate piece glued onto the front cover. On the side of the box, a bunch more metallic red plus Iron Man 3 and Mark 42. Then on the back, I know it's hard to see thanks to the glare, but this is super metallic, I don't know what to tell you. You do have a bunch of warnings and legal info. If you've never unboxed a quarter scale figure before, don't worry, it's really easy. You simply slide off the top cover and you're treated to a big hunk of foam. We also have this banner in a metallic finish that says Iron Man 3 and Mark 42. You then remove the top layer and, oh yes, the Mark 42 himself. Now you may be wondering, Justin, you have the original, do you really need a second? And I asked myself that very same question, but this guy comes with battle damage pieces, so now that I have a second one, I can totally have one displayed clean and one displayed with all the battle damage parts and pieces. What we are going to do now though is get all of his accessories laid out in the light box and take a closer look at everything he comes with. Starting off with the standard display base first. Thank you Hot Toys for giving us the option of either going with this, something a lot simpler, or assembling the deluxe base and creating quite the monstrosity. This standard base is nice and slim and low profile, not overly large. The top has this kind of rusty metal grey flooring effect, although it's plastic. Around the front, an etched metal nameplate that says Iron Man 3 and Mark 42. Then up top, a translucent rod and a crotch grabber. But what if you want to assemble the deluxe display base? Well, then you'd be left with this, like I said, quite the monstrosity, but I mean that in the best way possible. I actually happen to really dig this. It's now a lot taller, so the Mark 42 is a more clear centerpiece in the display. Up top, you've got this shiny silver arc reactor with LEDs. Then up the front, the 3 for Iron Man 3, and some more LEDs in there as well. Now this is powered by AAA batteries, much better than button cells, but USB would have been my preferred option personally. You also have a bunch of rubbery hoses. They're non-functional, they're not for power, they're just for show. They plug into the gantry arms, which are articulated and nicely painted. They look somewhat rusty. The top ones can be moved and the top pieces slot kind of onto the sides, and these panels can move up and down as well. Around the back you do still have the translucent flight pole, although now it sits in this piece. Normally it would plug in down here, but this bracket piece kinda kicks it out just a little. It's like an adapter. Then of course, still have the regular crotch grabber. And just like that, most of the accessories are now gone. They're part of that display base. You also have some battle damage pieces like I mentioned in the unboxing segment. Don't worry, we will take a much better look at all of them when we pop them on the figure. We also get some swap out missile attachments, or this little dart launcher. This one slides in with this peg, whereas this one is magnetic, and one of the coolest features is you can remove this teeny tiny rocket, if you want to make it look like this, has been fired. Kind of like Shane Black was from directing future MCU films after the reception of Iron Man 3. Now you do get two different versions of the flare, both painted in this metallic golden red. One is open with this translucent section in the middle, whereas the other one is closed. You also get the car battery. This feels like a supersized version of the one we literally just looked at with the Construction Mark III, but totally fine with me. This one does have a proper working handle and some proper wired terminals, so if you want to, you can connect this to the Mark 42. However, one of the carryovers that I wish weren't a thing are the stickers. What the hell? Hot Toys for a quarter scale car battery. You all know damn well you all should have printed this on, but no, they stuck with the paper stickers. At the very least, this time, the battery's more weathered than it was in 1/6 scale. We also get the partially unmasked Tony Stark head sculpt, and this was good with the original, but I reckon it's even better here, now that Hot Toys are using some slightly updated paint application techniques. Yeah, it looks a little better. The skin texture is stunning. The blood looks wet and fresh and glossy, and the likeness to RDJ or Tony Stark is absolutely there. I, of course, will be trying this out on the body later on. This rather unassuming white circle, you may think, what the hell is that? Some kind of plug? No. This slots onto the arc reactor, and it makes it look like the suit is turned on without the LEDs. It's something that I'm super keen to try out, and something that I wish Hot Toys would do nowadays. Lastly, we do get the full array of hands, closed fists pre-installed on the figure out of the box, repulsor blasting hands with these articulated panels so they can hinge up just a little, and my personal favourite, the fully articulated ones. They do have multiple joints per finger, plus ball joints at the bottom, so they don't just move forward and back, they move in and out too. What we are going to do now though is get the Mark 42 itself out here. Standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses or accessories or anything like that. Hot Toys, you all very clearly got this right in the beginning with the 1.0, cause seeing this guy all over again, my big takeaway is, holy proportions, Tony, he looks so darn real. Now, if Hot Toys 1/6 scale die-cast Iron Man figures are kind of like the Ferrari or Lamborghini of the toy world, then in my opinion, quarter scale Hot Toys figures are the Bugatti. They're that next step up in quality, they're even more articulated, they're bigger, quite clearly, they're painted nicer, the seam lines, the gaps, and the joints, they're all nicely hidden. Visible ugliness is kept to an absolute minimum. Up close and personal, kicking things off with the LED helmet first, I do have the lights turned on and it looks really good. The lights are super bright, for now. Unfortunately, even at this larger scale, Hot Toys are still going with button cell batteries. Why? I was hoping for some kind of integrated lighting system, especially for a quarter scale figure, but no, this is a straight reissue. No improvements here. The helmet, though, still fits on the body well. It's not too big, it's not too small, and it's painted beautifully. I love the choice of gold and the choice of red. Plus there's some subtle, or depending on how you look at it, not so subtle, scratching and battle damage on the surface. The best type of snap transition is a surprise snap transition. I wanted to pop on the Tony Stark helmet. And this one, it kind of works in the same way. You can still close up the faceplate if you want to. But you also have the option of either removing it entirely or simply popping it up top. Old school Iron Man style. Before the helmet retracted inside the suit, this is kind of what Tony had to deal with. The faceplate popped up on top to reveal his noggin. And yeah, I still really like that Tony Stark head sculpt. Looks just like him, and it's painted very well to boot. Around the back, it looks very seamless, but oh no, there are a bunch of opening compartments. Hot Toys have used some very clever hidden hinges. The way they work is they slide out, then they can hinge up and down. both top and bottom. There's some sculpted and painted detail up top, then down below an LED, and some scorch marks, cause yeah, that's supposed to be a thruster. The bottom panel here can open up and you can slide in the flare that Tony gives to Harley. Now this piece is really tiny and it fits in kind of loosely, so do be careful not to lose that. If you have it in there, make sure you remember that you do. One of the biggest complaints about the 1/6 scale Mark 42 were the gaps at the shoulders. They were so darn ugly. But on the quarter scale one, they've pretty much resolved that issue entirely. Now you can still see a teeny bit of gapping up top, but you can angle the shoulder pads. There are these kind of flap pieces that can move around too. They basically work together to close up all those gaps and make it look just a little bit more seamless. I'm all for that. As I said, one of the biggest complaints with the smaller one were the gaps up the top there. Now you do have multiple different shades of gold, darker and lighter, plus some gunmetal, some silver, and also the vibrant red, but there are multiple shades of red here too. There's the darker red, the lighter red, and a bunch of pitting and scorch marks and wear and tear on the surface. You do also have some blue LEDs tucked up on the sides there, and the main arc reactor, even when it's turned on, it's still very nicely detailed. When you remove this top chest plate, which isn't super difficult to do, it's held on with magnets, there's a ton of sculpted in detail underneath. If I sound like I'm out of breath at any point wrangling this guy on camera, that's because I genuinely am. He's really big and heavy and kind of cumbersome to work with, but I'm gonna try my best. You'll just have to stick with me. He does have some opening panels up on his traps. You can then bring in the missile pods, slide them in. It's a secure fit, and you have some articulation up and down. You can pop them on both sides. Is this something I'm going to display with my Mark 42? I mean, it looks cool, but yeah, it's not for me. We do have a couple of things to talk about on his arms, and no, not the battle damage, we are getting to that. I'm really excited to try that out on this figure, because with my original, the person I bought it off had done some customizing, so I never actually got to see what the battle damage looks like from Hot Toys, factory fresh. Now, inside the elbow joints, that's metal. I didn't actually know that that was die-cast on the original. Maybe it wasn't, and it's a change they made on this new one, but it's been a while since I handled my 1.0. If you have the 1.0 and that's metal there too, let me know down below. Now you can remove this panel. It's held on with a magnet. Underneath there's some sculpted in armatures and detail, and I dig the painted wires. You can then bring in the missile, and it's articulated, although it's really tiny. You can slide it down if you want, or you can remove the missile entirely. It's totally up to you. The ab section on the 42 is very sleek, and I know not everyone likes that, but I think it works here. The whole idea of this compact suit that'll come to Tony whenever he needs, yeah, it's going to be a little bit more sleek, and that's exactly what we have here. You do still have some mechanical detail both front and back, plus multiple shades of silver, gunmetal, gold, and red. Then the scratching and even some scorch marks over the top. And I do like the teeny little chips where it looks like the gold paint has been scuffed away. And that goes for pretty much the entire suit from head to toe. There are multiple sections where it looks like the paint is scuffed. Don't worry, when you get this in hand, it's supposed to look that way. It's a very surface level battle damage pass, so it looks a little bit more realistic. Now you do have an asymmetrical finish with the scorch marks on one side and just some scratching on the other. You do also have some opening panels, which we will investigate a little bit later on. But for now, I know y'all are pretty curious, just like me, to try out the battle damage pieces. Starting off with the shoulder pads first, they are on ball joints. You simply pop them out and they're labelled, so you know this one's the left, so then you go and grab the battle damage one for the left side, it's labelled as well. The easiest way I found to attach it is to angle this piece forward and bring the ball joint down. Then you can simply push it in place and adjust it later. The same exact thing on the other side, you simply remove the non-battle damage shoulder pad, and while you're here you may as well check out all of the sculpted in pistons and wiring. It's painted in gunmetal. Then bring in the battle damage one, simply pop it on and slide it in position. I like to ratchet the arms out just a little to give us access to these panels. You remove them. Once again, more detail underneath. I know I sound like a broken record at this point. You then pop on the replacement panel. It's really battle damaged. The other side is dramatically different. No, I'm joking. It's exactly the same. It's held on with a magnet. You simply remove it and pop the new one on. You all know I love magnets. It just makes this process way simpler. Next up, we remove the chest plate and bring in, oh, you guessed it, the battle damage one. It slides itself in position. There are some subtle guiding pins that should help it lock into place a little bit more securely, but the magnets do most of the heavy lifting. We're almost there. Next up, take off the missile pod panels and bring in the battle damage ones. Once again, magnets. And then the same exact thing on the other side. Remove the original one and pop the new one in position. As with any good superhero suit reveal, we've saved the helmet for last. Of course we did. You once again take off the faceplate magnetically, then bringing in the new one. It's not as easy as you think. You slide in the mouth plate first, then let go. The magnets will take over. This is by no means a super comprehensive battle damage look. I mean, from his abdomen down, he's pretty clean. There are scratches, there's some scorch marks, but nothing like the huge gashes on the upper torso. I mean, there are literal chunks of the armor that's been torn away. You also have these metal grate sections, some gashes, some bullet holes. I mean, that faceplate has clearly seen some action. Now, you can add the battery if you so choose. You simply slot the terminal connections underneath this piece right here, and it kinda locks it in. It's not the most secure connection, but it gets the job done. Do let me know, which look do you prefer? Clean or battle damaged? Wait a minute, before we move on, I almost forgot to show you the Tony Stark head sculpt with the battle damaged gear. Yeah, this looks dope as well. Once again, you can close up the faceplate if you so choose, or remove it entirely. I'm definitely going to be displaying this one battle damage, as I have the other one completely clean. Now, I did mention the die-cast in the elbows a little bit earlier, but I forgot to mention there's some die-cast in the knees, something that I didn't notice with the 1.0, but it definitely makes these ratchet joints a little bit sturdier for a very tall and heavy figure. For a quick side-by-side comparison, here we have the MK42 reissue on the left, and on the right, the MK43 from Age of Ultron. A lot of people prefer the predominantly red color scheme. It's a little bit more classic Iron Man. I don't. I like the gold look. I know it's controversial, but the heart wants what the heart wants, and for me it turns out to be gold. It's something different, it stands out in the display, plus the 42's just been reissued, so it's going to be a lot easier to find, and probably cheaper than the 43. Now, these suits are identical. They have the same engineering, the same panels that can move and come off, they have the same lights, but where they differ is, of course, the color. You can see that plain as day, but the accessories and their display bases, plus the movies that they're based off. So once again, it's that same old saying. It's down to personal preference. Next up, here we have the quarter-scale Spidey from Homecoming, and he's a little bit shorter than Tony, as he should be. Peter is a young lad, Tony is a full-size adult in a full-sized Iron Man suit, so this checks out. He should definitely be taller. And lastly, I don't know why people ask me to do this, it's such a weird comparison. Who's deciding between a 1/6 scale Iron Man and a 1/4 scale? They're completely different sizes, completely different price points. As I said, it's a weird one. But here we have the diecast 42. He's significantly smaller, the proportions are worse, the paint is worse, the engineering is worse, but the one thing he does have going for him is the heft, cause he's made of metal. Going over articulation, do bear in mind this is my personal copy of the figure, so I'm going to be a little bit more careful. Also, this guy is huge, so trying to articulate him on camera, yeah, it's not super easy. Starting off with the helmet, it's on a ball joint and a hinge, looking forward and back, swivel and pivot. The arms will go up to there on very clicky ratchets, plus the shoulder pads are independently articulated as well. The arms will go forward and back, butterfly joint at the shoulder that also hinges up and down. Swivel at the bicep, ratcheted double bend at the elbow going way past 90, plus a ball joint and a hinge for the wrist peg. The torso does crunch forward and back, although it separates to crunch forward and back just a little more. Swivel as well as pivot. Now you do have these panels for the hips that you have to move forward. The legs will go forward to there and out to there. But that's not all. There's a hidden button on the iron booty, and when you push it, the legs will drop down, maximizing your range of motion. You can also swivel at the upper thigh, but extend the legs down to get even more swivel and even more range of motion going forward. You do have a ratcheted double bend at the knee, once again going past 90, a double ball peg for the ankle, plus toe articulation. Moving on to the 3 cool and 3 annoying things. The first annoying thing is this huge gap at the wrist peg. I totally understand why it's there so the hand can go all the way in, totally love that range of motion, but if only when you weren't using it, you could collapse it in and make that gap just a little bit smaller. The second annoying thing, and I had this issue with the 1/6 scale Mark 42 as well, but even when the legs are straight up and down, there's this kind of bow, this chicken leg effect, and I don't know why. It's not something that really needs to be there, the legs could have been perfectly straight, because as it stands, Tony's legs are kind of at an S-bend. The third annoying thing is stickers. Hot Toys, really? With your top-of-the-range 1/4 scale Mark 42, you expect people to put these blurry-ass stickers on a car battery? No. Y'all know that y'all should have printed these details on the battery, cause stickers at this price point, hell no. The first cool thing is something I wish Hot Toys would do nowadays, but unfortunately, they don't. Now, when you have the arc reactor turned on, yeah, it looks really cool and the suit looks alive, but as soon as you flick the switch and turn it off, the suit looks completely dead. But if you take off the chest plate, remove the arc reactor, you do have a swap out piece that's frosted white plastic. So even with the LEDs turned off, the suit looks alive and fully functional. As I said, something I wish they'd do nowadays. Yes, you lose the detail, but in the display from a distance, it's a really cool effect. The second cool thing is that you get the bully deterrent that Tony gives to Harley, and there's actually a place to store it too. You can open up this back panel, you can slide it in, and now that piece is stored inside the armor. The third cool thing is all of the openable panels on the legs. It's not something that's on the 1/6 scale figure, it's exclusive to the big boy. On the underside, there's some sculpted in detail, and of course, it's all really nicely painted. Plus, when you close everything up, you wouldn't really be able to tell that these panels open. It's super seamless. Wrapping up on the Hot Toys 1/4 scale Mark 42 reissue based off its appearance in Iron Man 3. My question at the end of this review is, why? Why did they reissue this figure? Iron Man 3 is one of the least popular MCU films, the Mark 42 is one of the most hated MCU Iron Man suits, and 1/4 scale isn't really Hot Toys' most popular scale. But Howard said, no, I'm going to make a suit from Iron Man 3, the least popular one and in quarter scale, and you watch, it'll sell. I don't know if it will, Howard, but I certainly hope it does for your sake. Now, the suit itself is actually awesome. I love the updated paint applications on the Tony Stark head sculpt. The suit itself is also painted beautifully, much better than the die-cast figure. He's also a lot bigger, obviously. He's quarter scale, the engineering is superior, and the sculpt on the battle damage pieces, now that I can actually admire them, yeah, I really like those. You also get a ton of accessories and a massive diorama-style display base with the deluxe one. This guy is a true centerpiece, but only if you love the MK42 like I do. I don't know why so many people don't like it. A lot of people say Midas. Midas is my favorite suit because of all the gold. Well, that's also one of the biggest reasons why people don't like the 42, because there's too much gold, so I don't know what to tell you. This suit is either going to sit around forever on store shelves, or it's going to sell out eventually, and it's going to be hard to find, so if you want it, get it while you can. Now, I got mine from toyswonderland.com. Link for that is in the description below. They do have installment plans and a reward system. While you're down there, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button if you like the sound of seeing your name in the end credits of my reviews. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next video.